Welcome to the Fave podcast, episode number 21. And today I'm joined by Sierra Woods, a knowledge management colleague whom I have known for a relatively short time, but have gotten to know pretty well recently. Sierra, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Stan. Excited to be here.
You're welcome. I think we met for the first time in Dublin this past June. I think it was
Yes.
the day that we were going on the big walk up in the mountains, and you were there at the bus stop when we were leaving. And that's when I first
Yeah.
encountered you, and then we saw you the rest of the meeting, and then we've been involved since then in an ongoing mentorship relationship. So that's been great to have.
Yes. Yeah, I remember trying to rally everybody to take a group photo. Yep. Sending you guys off.
So let's start out by talking about your background. When and where were you born?
Yeah, so I was born in Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada, southern part of Alberta. And I was born in 1995. So I just turned 30 this year. Kind of a big milestone.
Got a few years on you then.
Yeah, just a
What
little bit.
what's what's your ancestry?
Well, my both my parents come from a German background. Um, but interestingly, none of my grandparents actually came from Germany. They came from Russia, Poland, Paraguay, even. There's a whole other long story behind that, but could be here for a while.
Okay, you want to tell
Yeah.
any of that story?
Well, actually, their background is Mennonite, which is a word that can maybe sometimes be associated with, Mennonites who live on a colony. They weren't that kind of Mennonite. They came from a faith-based background, and my grandfather, he migrated from well, his family came from Russia and then landed in Paraguay because they were promised there's farmland there. So that's what they did. They were farmers. And then they ended up in Ontario in Eastern Canada, which is where I am now. I live in Ottawa. But my grandfather moved when he was 14 to a place called Niagara on the Lake, which is a really beautiful, quaint town. If anybody, little plug for Canadian tourism, highly recommend it. So my mom was born in Niagara on the Lake, and then they moved when she was 12 to Alberta. And so my parents met in southern Alberta, and then here I am.
How did they decide to name you Sierra?
It's a good question. My parents love nature. And Sierra means mountains. My middle name is Dawn, which means sunrise. And then when I married my husband, it's kind of funny because his last name is Woods, so it kind of completed the full picture. But yeah, I think it's just because they're mountain lovers. It's kind of a different name, not super common, but
You know, it's interesting when I write you a memo and I write High Sierra, I think of the High Sierra Mountains. So,
okay, well, you're bang on. It's quite literal, yes.
so where all have you lived?
Ooh. Well, I grew up in Lethbridge, so I was there till I was 17. Then I moved to Ottawa when I was 17 for university. I went to Carleton, but I didn't stay in Ottawa the entire time. I was kind of in and out. So I lived in Italy for 7 months. I did an exchange there and traveled quite a bit. And then for a brief period, I was in Peru. And then now I'm back in Ottawa. That's always kind of been my home base. I've been here since 2013, so just over 10 years. Just kind of crazy.
So when you were growing up, who else was in your family?
I have an older sister. She is 2 years older than me. So it was me, her, and my parents. We're this tight-knit family of four. But I also had grandparents around, which was such a blessing. I had my grandpa and grandma on my mom's side and my dad's side, all in the same city, which I feel like now is rare. I mean, both my sister and I were on opposite ends. She's in California, I'm in Ontario, parents are in Alberta. So, yeah, growing up, it was a lot of every Sunday going between one side of the family, grandparents' house to the other side of the grandparents. So, yeah.
And what did your parents do?
My dad is an engineer, so he works for the government of Alberta in water management and ensuring looking after water flows. We get a lot of rain or snow, so helping ensure like managing water so that there's enough for farming, but also looking after it from an environmental perspective. My mom has her own business. She's a small business owner. She does bookkeeping for small to medium sized companies. And she also spent a ton of time. She did that part-time when we were younger, and she spent a lot of time looking after me and my sister and playing with us and helping us navigate the world.
What's the what are the differences between Alberta and Ontario?
Oh, well, yeah, that could be a bit of a loaded question. Um, Well, from a landscape perspective, like I was a prairie girl, but I also spent a lot of time in the mountains. And I remember when my husband, well, at the time he was my boyfriend, he took me to his home in Ontario called Collingwood, and there's a place called Blue Mountain. And he's like, it's this amazing ski hill. And I remember driving and he's like, there it is. And I said, that's a mountain, that's a hill. Like you can seriously hike up it in 15 to 30 minutes. Like whereas in Alberta, it's the Rocky Mountains. It's the real deal. I mean, those things are massive. Um, so yeah, I feel like I was really formed and shaped by the landscape. We camped a lot in a place called Kananaskis Country, which was gorgeous and campfires and trailers and being in nature. So I think that the nature is different. I would also say another difference is just politically. I mean, there's different views. Ontario would definitely be a little bit different from that perspective. I think in Alberta, you also just have very different makeups of population, different compositions. Alberta has a lot of people from that settled from the Ukraine, a lot of people of Dutch heritage, Mennonites. When I moved to Ottawa, very different city, like a lot of newcomers to Canada from um, the Middle East to Africa, Caribbean, and not that we don't have that immigration and newcomers in Alberta. I think that's really changed, especially in Calgary. Um, but yeah, diversity, just the composition of society is very different. Um, what else? You know what? I would say pace. That was another huge thing I noticed. Like in Alberta, things feel like they slow down every time I return there for the holidays. I feel like people are available in a way, whereas in Ottawa, and I'm not speaking for all of Ontario, like Ottawa is the capital of Canada. It's a very ambitious city, one of the most educated cities in the country. And so it's a different pace. A lot of people here that I'm around, they want to be the next prime minister, not literally, but everybody is looking to climb. Whereas in
Mhm.
Alberta, I'd say it's a lot more chill and people are done work at 5. They don't have 5 other jobs. So yeah, it's a different vibe.
When you were younger, what did you like to do when you were like in elementary school and high school?
Hmm. I was really athletic. So I played a lot of soccer, basketball, track and field, cross country. Um, So did I love it? I loved soccer. That was like my first love in life. I'll always say that.
Mhm.
I loved watching the women's Canadian national soccer team. Those girls were like my role models. I always wanted to be the next Cara Lang or Christine Sinclair. Um, and and I love spending time with family. I love my family. They are um my best friends. Like I adore my sister and my mom and my dad. And so I love just we go on family vacations every year in springtime. My parents would pull us out of school and we would do a lot of road trips through the US. And then my parents, they finally were able to take us to Europe. I remember our first European trip was to Greece in grade 8. So yeah.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
Hmm. Well, my first dream was to be a national women's Canadian soccer player. If I were to look at my little journals from when I was like in elementary, it's like I would draw the jersey and put my last name on the back with the number. That was my dream. Clearly, that I became a knowledge manager instead. I don't think I knew about this career when I was in grade five.
Right?
Um, but yeah, and then that evolved over time, but definitely being a professional athlete. And then in grade 12, I kind of just took a complete pivot and became a policy major, and moved to Ottawa. So, been a change of heart.
And so where did you go to college?
I went to Carleton University in Ottawa. Yeah, starting in 2013. And then I did my master's there as well. Yeah, I love Carleton. It was amazing
When you
school.
entered Carleton, what did you major in? What did you think you were going to do after college?
I majored in public affairs and policy management, and the goal was to become a diplomat. I wanted to
Hmm.
be an ambassador, travel the world, be in embassies, doing stakeholder relationships. Um, and I think that was a lot of people's dreams going into that program. But then afterwards, uh, I fell into a space of innovation and policy innovation and doing things differently. And I think that's kind of been the through line in what I've pursued post graduating.
So when you graduated, what was your first job?
I worked at a non-for-profit. I think they have a different name now, but it was called Kids Code Jeunesse. I think it's called Digital Moment. But they were really focused on, and still are, like how do we upskill and train youth in STEM related things like coding. They were talking about AI before AI kind of blew up, and ethics and using it responsibly. So I work there in a government relations capacity around helping that organization raise awareness for what they do in the country and advocating for funding for digital literacy skills for kids across Canada.
How long did you do that?
I did that for 9 months. It was a pretty short stint. And, they had offered me to stay on longer, but I was really feeling a burning itch to go back to school and do a master's.
Hmm.
So that's what I did. I quit that job and went back to school.
And then what did you do after you got your master's?
After I got my master's, I started right away with the federal government. So joining the public service at a department that really is all about Canadian heritage, Canadian arts, culture, sport is part of that department. And I was in an innovation hub. So the role of that hub was really to help the department just think differently, to help them when they're encountering sticky issues, bring creative different methodologies to bear to help them reframe their thinking. And that's where I ran into and uncovered knowledge management.
And how did you first encounter that, and what did you think about it at the time?
Well, my manager came to me and she said, "Can you help us introduce a function called knowledge transfer?" And I'd never heard of knowledge transfer. So I spent around 3 years um, trying to understand what knowledge transfer was. And as I dug into that, I realized we're not really doing knowledge transfer. It sort of conveyed to me a one-directional flow of knowledge, and I came across this term knowledge mobilization, which to me captured more of the dynamic way that knowledge is shared, and it really spoke to this impact piece. And I think that's what I thought struck a chord with me is it was explained to me as being about impact and relationships. And, you and I were talking about like your why the other day, and I still don't know if I have the clear words to describe my why. But I do think those things, I'm super extroverted. I love people. I love talking to people, and I love sharing what I know. And I love to think big and think about how can we impact really big, sticky issues. So I thought knowledge mobilization was amazing. I thought it was this way of like people, it's such an overlooked thing, knowledge and its power when it's shared to unlock and move forward on some of these big topics and big problems that you're always hearing about in the news. And then I came across knowledge management and I was like, how is this same or different from knowledge mobilization? Um, and the way I came encountered with that is just through LinkedIn. I saw Dave Snowden post about this conference in Dublin, and I thought that looks super fascinating and interesting. And I kept just revisiting the website, like, thinking, can I go? Can I not? And then, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go and figure out what this thing is. And I met Barry, and he made it like a great opportunity for me to be able to attend as a volunteer. And then I kind of just never looked back. And what I appreciate about knowledge management is the loads of tools that are available that are so simple, not easy, but simple. Um, and that it just makes sense to help knowledge flow and move. And knowledge is such an abstract concept. I find it's quite slippery and it's ambiguous, which I also find really interesting. So, yeah, it's been a bit of a journey into this
So how long
field.
have you been working in knowledge management?
Well, I guess if you count from the day I was tasked with knowledge transfer,
Hmm.
which I don't know how I remember the day, like March 1st, 2022. Um, so since then, it's been like almost 4 years.
And what do you end up doing for Knowledge Summit Dublin?
So it started out as social media. So if you do follow that page and you see posts, that is me. And just kind of showing and building awareness of um, just this incredible gathering that happens every year at Trinity College. And then after this year's summit, started to the role kind of increased around marketing and building a brand and figuring all that out and realizing that marketing actually seems like another tool in knowledge management, like sharing information, knowledge to help people make a decision on whether a product is right for them. Um, so that's what I do. It's really around brand building, marketing, and getting the word out and talking to people who attend the summit and really trying to understand who our audience is, what pains them, what irks them. Like I love it, like I'm part of the community. And so as I chat with them, it's always inspiring me. And it might be anonymized, but bits of those conversations get woven into some of my posts or marketing emails. And it's stuff that's coming directly from the community, which I find, yeah, is a really cool space to be both marketing it, but being part of the community too.
And you do this in addition to your full-time job.
I was until as of actually November 13th was my last day at my
Oh, okay.
full-time job. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. But I started a company with my husband called Periscape Consulting and decided it's like it seems like I have work in this space and I love it. I can't get enough of it. And I want to do more of it. I love brand building. And so I decided to take a personal leave from work and see what we can do to build this company and help people. My husband's in the security space, so he offers a lot of different value there and different ways of thinking. And so, yeah, it's been a really, I'm on day two on this new job where
Well,
I am
congrats.
kind of like the boss, which is super weird, but amazing. My gym, I can be at the gym and be like, we'll stay an extra 10 minutes.
So what was your position before you took this leave?
My official title was like a research and data analytics officer.
Hmm.
So basically, what I did was a lot of sense making, a lot of reviewing data, qualitative data, making meaning of it, drawing insights, reflecting it back to teams to help them take a next step because a lot of the teams that I was working with, I mean, they were grappling with just intensified complexity of challenges. And when you're dealing with something like social cohesion, I mean, building a Canadian identity, what does that mean? I mean, these are big questions. And so yeah, a lot of my work was around doing research, and helping teams see things from a different view.
So you said you took a leave from that. Is it possible that you'll return to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's always possible, but I think my dream is who I am at my core is very entrepreneurial, and I've
Hmm.
had moments of it in my undergrad and during my master's, my thesis research. I started an initiative in order to be able to research it, and those things didn't really go anywhere in the way that I expected. Um, But at my core, I just love building new things. I love challenging status quo. I love visioning and thinking big and, you know, so we'll see. Hopefully I can make a go of this and but the government gave me a really good foundation. I learned a ton. That gave me the confidence now to step out in a consulting capacity because I was like a consultant in-house.
Hmm.
Um, and now I'm out of that house in
What
my
sort of
own.
consulting engagements are you hoping to get?
Um, well, brand building is one. Like I would
Hmm.
love to help even small, medium businesses figure out their branding. Like even like my mom, she owns a small business, she's a bookkeeper, and I was like, "Mom, you need a website." Like I know you've gone by with word of mouth, and that's great and amazing, but I think that was kind of my first crack at just doing it for her. And I
Hmm.
saw the confidence it gave her. She started framing how she talked about her business differently after the website came about. And the time we spent crafting the words and picking the words and the design and like I love that. And I see small businesses today, they're so stressed out with the day to day. And I love to just be able to give people that time to think, to reflect, and help them put something out there that's beautiful, that's coherent and cohesive. Um, and also around knowledge management as well, like helping companies think through how do we how do we use what we know to not just in service of knowledge management, but to think beyond that. Like how can we use what we know to help the world combat and tackle things like climate change or mis and disinformation? And not that every company has to be focused on those issues, but I think I would love to help groups who are like, oh, I didn't think of knowledge and how we could use that in that way to make a difference.
How do you plan to go about finding your clients?
Well, that's a good question. Talking to people like you, Stan. Just I think the number one thing is relationship building.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of what I've been doing is reaching out to people through my network on LinkedIn, lots of virtual coffees, getting people to critique me, having people, being vulnerable. Here's my website, here's my pitch, here's how I'm framing myself, and them just being like tearing it apart. In a very kind way and super helpful way. I have good people. And then my colleague and I, we started a podcast, so Janine Waitman, called Humans in the Loop. And so I think that's a way to also just have people experiencing how I think, what my thoughts are, and maybe they're interested and they're like, want to talk more. Maybe could you, what you're teaching there, could you help us with do that for us?
So if somebody wants to take advantage of your services, where should they go?
So you can go to periscapeconsulting.com. We do have a website. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, Sierra Woods, send me a private message. Um, Either way. Yeah. Or you can
Great.
fill the contact form on our website.
Well, I wish you the best in your new venture.
Thanks,
When you're not
Dan.
working, what are your hobbies or interests that you enjoy?
I love going to the gym. Well, it's a love-hate. It's a hate on the way to the gym. But once I'm there, we have this beautiful gym by my house. It is like I don't know. It's very bougie, but like very affordably priced. So it's just a nice environment to be in. And I've recently discovered the elliptical. I love just pounding it out on the elliptical. I love listening to Taylor Swift while I'm pounding it out on the elliptical, or this great Irish band called Ren Collective. Um, yeah, so I love doing that, and I'm super social. So you'll always find me probably out driving in my Honda Civic around the city, meeting up with friends, leaving my husband stranded without a car. Because I'm always going out for dinner or coffee or um yeah, with people. I have an amazing community in Ottawa, and so there's always somebody to see and somebody to talk to over a cup of coffee.
All right, let's talk about the Fave Five topics, which are books, food, music, sports, and humor. Starting out with, what do you like to read?
Well, you can see, Stan, these are more than my fave five books. But uh my husband and I had a book club for a while. So we would switch back and forth picking books. And through that book club, I think one of my most favorite books, I mean, my genre is typically business leadership stuff. I've been trying to venture out and read fiction or not as like brain intensive books, but then I get bored and end up back at like an Adam Grant or Brene Brown book. But I'm really enjoying right now her new book, Strong Ground. It's blowing my mind. That book, Surrender, you can see that was Bono's most recent biography. I gotta tell you, that was a tough book. Have you read it, Stan?
No, I haven't.
It's good, but it's very poetically written, so you have to reread things a few times. But there's some good nuggets in there for sure. Good life advice.
What do you like to eat?
Well, I love chocolate cake. That's always the first thing that pops in my mind. My mom always made the chocolate chiffon cake with this Dream Whip icing for birthdays. It's probably a bit of nostalgia. Um, but yeah, if I could eat that every day, I would. I love like dessert.
So if I were to come visit you in Ottawa and we were going to go out to eat, where would you take me?
I saw this questions down and I really was thinking hard about it because I don't want to diss my city. I love Ottawa, but the food scene it's a little lacking compared to Montreal or Toronto.
Hmm.
Um, but a place that my husband and I recently discovered that we love to go, and that's probably where I take you, is called Three Brewers. It's very close to the Ottawa Senators hockey stadium. So if you're on a game night, it's just got a great atmosphere. People there in their jerseys, big screens. It's like this massive two levels, wooden interior, $5 beer during happy hour, and they've got these great pizzas that are super thin crust. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce what it's called. It's not your typical pizza, but it's very good. Yeah.
And how about if I came to Alberta, where would we go?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably to the water tower in Lethbridge. It's literally a water tower. You take an elevator all the way to the top, and it's got sweeping views of an absolute no skyline. You can see the prairies. But it's pretty cool.
So when you're not eating chocolate cake, what other kinds of foods do you like?
Um, I love anything my mom makes. Like she makes this chili. And Stan, it's so bad for you. It's got brown sugar on brown sugar on brown sugar with maple syrup. I love honey garlic chicken. Like just put sauce on things. I like to I do eat healthy too. Like I like smoothies. Um, I like oatmeal. I love oatmeal. I think that's like a food group unto its own. You can do so many things with like almond butter, and I put chia seeds, and that thing keeps me going, yeah, all morning.
All right, let's go to music now. What about a favorite song, a favorite musician, favorite
I
album, favorite
feel like I
concert?
kind of gave it away. Well, I do love Taylor Swift. I do. I mean, I've had an up
Yeah.
and down relationship with, I mean, her music, but I always come back to Taylor Swift.
Mhm.
I also love a band called Need to Breathe. That's probably my favorite concert.
Hmm.
They're a group. Do you know of them?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I love those guys. I saw them in Ottawa last year. And Bear, like when he sings, he's just like turns red and he's like really muscly and it's just like, whoa, like don't hurt yourself. But he's amazing. I love that group. I love Rend Collective. I mentioned earlier. I just saw them in concert a few weeks ago. Amazing Irish band. They've got like the fiddler and they're dancing the whole time and the drums and yeah. Do you know of them?
I don't know of them. I do know a lot of Irish bands, but I'll have to look that one
Okay.
up.
Yeah. No, they're good.
All right, what was the first record you bought? Nowadays, I guess you don't buy records,
I was
but
like,
when I'm
Dan,
talking to my generation, we understand that question.
well, actually, records are back now.
They are.
Everybody's
They
putting
are.
out records, right?
Well, I guess
Well,
they
the
call them
first
vinyl.
CD, I mean, I'm kind of old now too. I'm CDs, like nobody buys CDs anymore, but um, probably Taylor Swift's Fearless was the first one, or Miranda Lambert's, can't remember the name of the album, but that was probably the first one that I got.
And what was the last concert that you went to?
Rend Collective.
Okay. Do you go to many concerts? You like to go out to hear music?
I love it. I wouldn't say I go to a lot, although I
Okay.
guess I've been to one this year and one last year, which is odd. Um, my biggest regret in life is that I did not go to the 1989 Taylor Swift conference when it rolled through Ottawa and you could actually get tickets and not have to break the internet and take time off your job for 3 days. Um, but yeah,
All right, you mentioned that you have a background in sports. What sports do you enjoy watching?
I love women's soccer. That's like yeah. We got a new league, the Northern Super League in Canada. So Ottawa
Hmm.
got a team. But I just love how the game has exploded, especially since I was a kid. But yeah, I love watching, especially during the Olympics, women's soccer.
And any other sports that you follow?
Not really. No.
So you're not a
I
hockey fan.
I know. I mean, yes, I am. Yeah, no. My dad is a massive sports guy. I mean, he's always wearing a different jersey from every team, and it's slightly confusing for people. They're like, "Who are you? Who's your allegiance to?" But yeah, no, I'm not a super
Okay.
committed hockey
So,
fan.
what team does your dad support in hockey?
He'll always go for the Canadian team, any Canuck team. So he's not like super loyal to anyone. I mean, he's an Alberta guy, so
Yeah,
he'll support the Oilers and the Flames,
both
which
of
is
them.
that's questionable,
Okay.
right? Hopefully they don't see this podcast. But yeah, but he'll go for Vancouver if they're making it, or Toronto or Ottawa. Um, yeah, he's Team Canada.
You already mentioned some favorite athletes, but who is your favorite athlete?
Christine Sinclair was definitely probably number one. She was, do you know Christine Sinclair,
Hmm.
Stan? Yeah. She just had such a way of leading the team that wasn't your typical leadership style. Like she was a quiet leader. She wasn't a huge showman either, but incredible talent. And I think she was, yeah. And now she's giving back by helping build this league up in Canada, for women. I also loved women's hockey growing up, like the national team. So Haley Wickenheiser was the captain, Danielle Goyette. They came to play a game against the guys, like kind of feeder NHL team. Um, and so I got to meet them outside of the change room after, and I remember just being starstruck, getting their autographs.
So when Canada plays the US in women's hockey, is that a big deal?
Yes, Sam, the amount of tears I have shed when we lose, like
Yeah.
for women's hockey or women's soccer, but I feel like in women's hockey we usually came out on the right
Yeah.
side, where
Yeah.
women's soccer, not so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite sports memory?
When I was playing soccer and I scored the goal that got us to provincials, that was pretty sweet. Yes.
Tell us about that moment.
It was in a town called Chestermere, I think it was just outside of Calgary. And I remember I was playing forward. I got the ball. And you know, when you get in a flow state in sports, it's such a rare, it's hard to get there. But when you do, and you're not concerned about who's doing what, and you feel like you can just, this person's moving here, I'll move here, pass to her, she passes back to me, kick, boom, goes right in. And you're just, yeah, you're in that heightened. I know sports psychologists have a word for it. Maybe it's your flow, but and I remember just the girls, they're piling on, hugging you, and you're living your Christine Sinclair moment at a much slower level. But girl can dream.
So can you summon up that memory whenever you want? Is it pretty much alive when you do?
It's funny, you sound like I haven't thought about this in forever until this very moment, and I'm like, hmm, I should travel there more often in my mind. That's a happy place.
It is. It's good to savor those kind of moments, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, our fifth topic is humor. Who's a favorite comedian?
Oh. Okay, there's this fellow on Netflix, Mike, and I'm always gonna mess up his last name. Maybe you can help me out. Mike Bergiglia. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Well, no.
Okay, let's go with Mike Bergiglia.
Okay.
He is an amazing comic because he mixes both storytelling with um like humor, but it's so complex. Like sometimes comedians, I feel like they go sort of for low-hanging fruit, but um this guy's really good because sometimes you're like, I don't know if I'm about to cry here and I should be laughing because I'm seeing a comedian, but yeah, he's quite good.
How about a favorite comedy film?
Oh, okay. RV probably with Robin Williams. That movie is hilarious. Yes. Probably because it's pretty relatable and it was filmed in Kananaskis where I
Oh,
grew up camping.
okay.
Um, but it's also just, yeah, it's a family comedic favorite. Yeah.
How about a TV show?
My favorite TV show right now is The Diplomat, with Carrie Russell. And but one of my favorite TV shows of all time is Borgen. It's a Danish
I saw it.
show. Yes. Yes. And it made
My
a
brother told me
comeback.
about that show, and we watched the whole thing. And we watched later on. They had like a sequel version. We watched that.
Yeah. It like came back during the pandemic, I guess.
Yeah.
And brilliant. Yeah.
How about a comedy TV show? Anything come to mind?
Modern Family.
Okay.
Yeah. That one's pretty funny.
All right.
I enjoy that one. Yeah.
All right. Last topic, which is who's best at making you laugh, and who are you able to crack up?
My husband Sean makes me laugh pretty hard.
Hmm.
He's not always trying to be funny, but he's just funny. And if you meet him, you'll know what I mean. He's particularly fun to tease. Yes, but he also has gotten funnier. Like maybe it's because he lives with me, because I'm pretty funny. And and was the other question, who do I crack up?
Who makes you laugh?
Oh, well, Sean makes me laugh. Yeah.
Okay.
He
Okay.
makes me laugh. Yeah. And my father. My father is pretty funny.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I assume that you're good at making your friends laugh.
Yes, that is like my hidden talent. I feel
Okay.
like whether I like it or not, if they're laughing with me or at me, but
All right. It's time to tell a story. What kind of a story have you chosen to share with us?
yes. My story, I think the one that I want to share around, I guess something like a challenge I overcame was what I was thinking about. And
Hmm.
through my experience with back pain. I've shared this maybe a few times on different podcasts. But right after my master's, um, suddenly this pain started creeping into my life. And I think part of it was probably the buildup of stress that you go through during a thesis, but it just kind of lingered and stayed. And I started seeing different, physios, chiros, and nothing was helping. And it got to the point where I remember one night just sitting on the floor and crying. And I was saying to Sean, like, I don't know, like, will I ever be able to walk normally again? Like, I feel like I can't even. And this is somebody like I've shared, very athletic and physical and love to do sports and move. And now I can't even barely walk without being in incredible pain. And I couldn't find an answer. Um, but dovetailing that journey is when I was also working for the government, learning about knowledge transfer and knowledge management. And I remember one day on my, third kind of fit therapy, I was trying osteopathy. And I remember my husband coming bounding to the car and he was all excited and happy because he was seeing her and he's like, I learned all about this, about the neck and different, like he's the most curious person. And I'm just sitting there and I had this moment of, I wasn't really listening to what he was saying, but I was more observing how he interacted with his healthcare professionals by being part of it. And I realized that while I was going to see all these different folks, I just went in there, like, treat me, fix me. And if I'm not fixed, like, and I realized I need to start engaging. I need to start sharing what I know about the different triggers of my pain when I experience it more or less. And so it really shifted how I interact, particularly with this osteopath. And her and I together over several months it started to accelerate where I would go to the gym and I'd say, hey, I couldn't do this or I can't do that. And she'd say, oh, well, maybe you want to try this. And as we went back and forth and mixed what she knew about anatomy and what I knew from my lived experience, I had a workout routine for the first time in 2 years. Like I hadn't been able to go to the gym. Um, and we kept making these little discoveries that would add up until she figured out another thing. She's like, I think you need to see this type of physio. And then that took me to the 90%. And I was actually just thinking today, I was speed walking with my husband right before this, and he was walking really slow. And I was like, what the heck? And he's like, remember when you were walking this slow? And honestly, Stan, I can't even barely remember it now, but it has truly been incredible and has more solidified my um yeah, just to look back and feel like you're an overcomer, I think is really, I'm not totally healed. I still deal with pain, but the journey really taught me a lot. And seeing how powerful knowledge management can be as a tool and sharing what you know in a reciprocal way and not falling into like expert syndrome halo effect where and realizing that they can't take my adaptive action for me. I have to actually own it. Um, Yeah, and it also really, did wonders for my own faith journey as well. Like, um, when you're suffering, I think you kind of ask why. But it refined me in ways that I don't think, would have happened otherwise. And so, yeah, it's I'm really like encouraged to say like I'm sitting here for an hour and I'm in no pain, which was not my story uh, a few years ago.
So was there a series of treatments and exercises and other things you had to do to get to where you are now?
Yes. Yep. A lot of trial and error and frustration, but
Hmm.
I really just learning the basics, Stan. How do you breathe? How do you walk? And how do you sit?
Hmm.
Like, and you're thinking, I'm 28 and I'm learning how to sit. My nephew is 4 and he's learning how to sit. Like, how are we at the same place? And yeah, a lot of gym routines of um learning how to do a squat. I remember that being quite frustrating and it would always trigger the wrong muscles. And they're like, you're doing it wrong. And you're like, I look exactly like you. But there's such nuances, right? To how you hold your body. And yeah, so now I have a routine, but before it didn't even look like I was moving, like you're like, do this. But now I'm like, bird dogs, deadlifts, elliptical, everything to bring length to the body. Because I think when you're stressed, I think that's what I learned. I just got so tensed
Mhm.
up. And by the time you know it, you're a pretzel while you're typing, and you do that for a few years. And yeah, your body is like, I need to stretch.
So there was no one cause of this. It was sort of combination of things.
Yeah, there wasn't like a major accident
Hmm.
or no, it just kind of creeped in, which was the frustrating part because I had an MRI, everything looked fine. I did have a few bulging discs, but those can be a red herring. That might not even be the source of the pain. Um, but honestly, I think it's just built up tension, built up tightness that there wasn't enough stretching to go
Okay.
with it.
So do these
Yeah.
exercises and behaviors now that you do pretty routinely every day?
Probably around 4 times a week.
Okay.
Yeah. I go and do them. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that it's worked so well for you. I know it can feel like when you're at the beginning of that, and it can be feel like there's no end in sight.
Yeah. I know. It does. And you start to feel hopeless. But, there's that quote, I think, if you lose hope, that's really when things don't go
Yeah.
well. So yeah, I was lucky though to have, community around me too, always like reminding you this.
So I want to talk about how it is we ended up becoming into, I became your mentor. I think it was
Mm,
because you had contacted me about writing something for the Now at Summit Dublin newsletter. Does that sound right? And asked me
yes.
to submit something, and I did. I think we must have talked and exchanged, but then I think came to the point where I thought, all right, are you interested in having me as your mentor? And you said yes, and so that
Yes.
started up, and that's been a great relationship so far.
Yeah, I've learned so much, Stan. If you were to go into my OneDrive, my Stan notes, many pages.
Good. So I
Yeah, and I always, yeah, oh, go
look
ahead.
forward to that continuing, and we'll get the chance to see each other next week in Washington, D.C. at KM World. That'll be nice. And then we'll be back in Dublin, I assume, together in June.
Yes, yes, I will see you in June, Stan. Yeah, and I'll see you next week. That's right. I'm excited.
So, anything else you'd like to add before we conclude today's interview?
I think that's all I got. Yeah,
We
that's all
didn't
I
miss
got,
anything. Okay.
Stan. Might
Well,
think of something at 2 a.m.
okay. Sierra,
Yeah.
thanks a lot for being my guest today. I really appreciate it. Enjoyed talking with you, and look forward to an ongoing relationship.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, Stan. Thanks for having me on.